Hey y'all, this week we have another replay for you. I know, so lazy, but the reason we're doing that is because it's been summertime, we've been traveling, and we have not been keeping up our regular recording schedule. So instead of just skipping the week, we decided it would be a good idea to replay some old episodes, especially since we're trying to, grow our subscriber audience. It's a good opportunity for new listeners to catch up on some of our old episodes without having to manually, like marathon through Spotify or YouTube. Although I definitely encourage you to do that. So yeah, this week will be another replay. Like I said, we have been, having a hot girl summer. I definitely have been on a Jet 2 holiday for like the past 3 months. I've been to Puerto Rico, Brazil, specifically Rio, which was amazing. I can't wait to go back. Canada, Jamaica, and I just got back from a fishing trip in Louisiana, which was also amazing. So yeah, we've been, kind of up and down. That's why. But I picked this episode because it was part of our Women's History Month series last year, so March of 2024. This year we were on break in March, so we didn't have, any Women's History Month content. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to replay the most popular episode from that month. Although I do encourage you to go back March of 2024 and listen to the other episodes because we did, a whole month of Women's History Month content. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode. If it's your first time listening to it, it is quite long because we are quite opinionated on this topic as we are about most things. So if it's your first time, I hope you enjoy. If you're listening again, I hope you do enjoy, and definitely go back and check out the other episodes from March of 2024. Leave us comments wherever you're listening. Follow us on Instagram if you are not already. We are at 2bspod, and of course on YouTube at 2bs in a pod. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Suzanne Anthony is no hero of mine.
Women in certain spaces improves the lives of everybody.
Society punishes people, particularly women, who don't fit a certain standard. Feminism is not an individualistic movement.
It's a win for you. It's not a win for women. You are listening to 2Bs in a Pod, and I am Bilala.
And I am Bilionga, and this is a podcast about immigrant experiences, sharing our perspectives on various topics,
including straddling cultures, fitting in, staying connected, learning and unlearning the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Happy Women's History Month. Our first episode for March, we're going to be talking about feminism, and we're going to be asking the question, is feminism in her flop era? So we'll give our opinions on that, and would love to hear your takes as well. But before we get into the content, as usual, our icebreaker today is, who is a less well-known woman icon who you admire and why?
You go first.
Okay, so Betty Reed Susskind. I don't know if I would call her less well-known. She was not well-known to me before I came across her on TikTok, and she is famous for many reasons, but the one that I knew of is that she was the oldest park ranger in the National Park Service. She retired at the age of 100 in 2022. And what is more amazing about that to me is that she started that career at the age of 85. So she became a park ranger at 85 years old, and she retired at 100. There's a documentary that's being made about her. I don't know when it's coming out, but I've read some articles about her. Again, I first saw a video about her on TikTok, and I just love people who have pivoted throughout their lives.
Right.
And she's one of those people. She has done so many things. Obviously, she was born in the 20s, so she has seen, many different eras in the U.S. She's a Black woman, and she was a civil rights activist. She has been a business owner. She used to sing and record songs that she just kept in her closet because she thought that, because she was a wife and a mother, that she couldn't, be like an actual singer. So she just kept those works to herself. But the filmmakers who are making that documentary about her, they're going to use some of her songs as the soundtrack of the movie, which I think is pretty cool because then the world will finally get to hear her music. But yeah, I just think she's really cool. If you go on TikTok and look up her name, you'll see, several videos of her, but it's amazing. And she seems to still be going strong.
I absolutely love that, honestly. I could not think of Icon, which is strange because there was a year where I used to listen to a podcast called Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls, and they shared different women I'd never heard about who did different amazing things. But when I started thinking, I'm like, well, if it's in the book or on the podcast, then people know
Yeah.
them. And I'm like, I'm thinking of like less well-known icons. And I'm like, well, can somebody who's personal to me be an icon? And
Hell yeah.
I'm going to go with that. And I'm going to go with my grandmother, my great grandmother, just because they were both widowed very young, and they were both in Cameroon. My grandmother was widowed in her maybe before she turned 40 with 5 kids. And her mother was also widowed pretty early in life. And somehow these two women figured out how to take over, I guess, husband and father. He had a plantation and they ran this commercial rubber plantation outside of Kumba for years together, no male interference. And considering Cameroon, where there are places in Cameroon where widows are treated pretty badly, and you hear stories of people seizing property, I think it's fascinating that they did all of this by themselves with no. I don't know what they went to school or what they were trained to do, but I watched them. I'd gone to the farm with them when they had to handle things with workers. I watched them talk to the CDC officers who will come to negotiate price with them at home for how much they would sell the raw rubber to CDC.
That's iconic. That's some iconic shit.
So yeah, those would be my lesser known icons.
I can only imagine because I don't know what decade this was, but in 2024, I hear of women who are bosses and leaders in Cameroon saying that they get pushed back from male, what do you call it, subordinates. So can you imagine like running a plantation back in the day and having to deal with that?
Yeah, and I find it fascinating that so for those who don't know, CDC is Cameroon Development Corporation. I want to say they were government run and they ran a lot of like the banana and rubber plantations. But these men came to meet them at home to do business. They did not go to them in the office.
Why?
My great grandmother was low-key a bully. I think she decided she was not leaving Kumba, so they came to her.
She's like, hey, this is my office. So working from home. It was just before her time.
Definitely working from home. Definitely.
That's so funny. I love it. Okay. So like I said, we're going to be talking about feminism. Obviously, that's a topic that can go on for hours and days, but we're going to be talking about, certain aspects of it. To begin, I just want to get the dictionary definition of feminism because I see a worrying amount of people, to be honest, on the internet and in real life, defining feminism and speaking about it in a way that lets me know that they do not understand what they're talking about, or they're being willfully disingenuous and trying to define it as something that is not. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and, drop some knowledge. So Auntie Merriam-Webster says that feminism is the belief in and advocacy of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. And it's that simple. Okay. Do you have anything to add? I mean, I think that's...
Yeah, basically that, or the way that I try to explain it to people in my layman's terms, it's like, what's good for you is good for me. Simple. Like what you can do, I can do. What's good for you is good for me. So the end of story.
I think people get it. It's that they're just being disingenuous, but like I said, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so we've put the definition out there so that we know everybody's on the same page, right? Going in, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, true. That definitely makes sense. Like let's all be in alignment before we start.
Mhm.
So if you feel like you're going astray, you have to circle back to the definition we're using.
So in terms of documented history of feminism, it has been centered around the West, right? And white women for the majority of its history. If you look at the literature and, the documentation, like I said, it does not mean that white women or Western women were the only ones who had a feminist movement, who were fighting, for equality. You just gave the example of your grandmother. What she did was a feminist move, right? I don't know. She was not probably labeling herself as a feminist, but that is something that if it were done in a Western country in America, like it would be documented as, breaking the glass ceiling or something similar. So women around the world have been, having their own feminist movements. It's just that it has not been documented in the same way.
Or it's not
And
spoken about in the same way, because a few years ago I learned about the about women's riots, which happened during colonial times. And when we're talking about all the firsts that women have done, very few people will pull back to like, look at what these women did back then. So yeah.
Is that, I don't know if I'm getting it confused. Is that the one where they were rioting against taxes, like they were market women?
Yes. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah. So that's an example, right? It's not as talked about as when you think of feminism, you think of
Susan B. Anthony.
Unfortunately. And Susan B. Anthony and her colleagues, a lot of them were racist. Yes, they made a lot of strides in gaining rights for women, but let's not, let's not get it twisted. They were fighting for the rights of white women because white women got the right to vote in America decades before Black women. So, Susan B. Anthony is no hero of mine. But if you Google feminism or feminist history, you'll see her name, there as one of the icons.
I mean, when you think about what Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, like, granted, if we consider they were in a male-dominated society and look at what they were doing, but I feel like when you're talking about feminism conversations, nobody really looks or pulls them out like, oh, as champions of feminism per se.
Mm-hmm. That's true, because, and we'll talk about intersectionality later, but they were facing oppression on many levels, right?
Sure.
So they did not have the luxury to say that, I'm fighting for my rights as a woman. Like
they just did. They did.
You're trying to free slaves. Like,
they just did what they had to do and moved on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they were great organizers, just probably even greater than the white feminists like Susan B. Anthony, because they had a lot more stacked against them and they still did all that. So when I was, making my notes, I thought of something that we discuss quite often, and I don't want to dwell on it, but in terms of social justice activism, white women and Black men have that in common. Why are you laughing? No, it's true, because
it's true.
It's something that's uncomfortable to discuss, but a lot of the Black civil rights leaders, they were misogynists. They were also homophobic. You talked about Bayard Rustin, right, in our last episode, and a lot of people who were really the driving force behind those movements were women and queer people, but they were not put at the forefront, for those reasons. So yeah, I find that interesting to think about. And today, when I engage with white women who are talking about feminism, if you are not talking about racism as well, then I have no business engaging with your content. If you're a Black man who is talking about racial equity, if you are not also talking about misogyny and homophobia, I have no business engaging with your content, because that just tells me that you are looking at equality just from one dimension. And that is only your dimension that you're concerned with.
So, yeah. Okay. When people speak about feminism in the historical sense, they talk about it in waves, right? And again, this is really Western centered. Yeah. So first wave, we talked about Susan B. Anthony and her girlies, but this started, what I've seen is like from the 19th and 20th century, they were fighting for just basic political, and social equality, the right to vote, right? The right to be seen as an equal citizen in society, to participate in civic duties and politics. That was first wave. Then second wave, whenever I think of second wave, the image that I have in my head is of the hippies.
Sounds about right though. Because
it's around that time, right?
Yeah.
That's who I envision. So second wave was focused on, discrimination and sexism in the society, pushing for women to have, the right to work, access to the workplace. Birth control pill came out in those decades, which again allowed women to have control over their reproductive choices, and they could, join the workforce. In the US, Roe v. Wade, which guaranteed the right to abortion, was passed in 1973, and it was repealed in 2022. Iconic. Also, second wave feminism during that decade in the 70s, women got the right to open bank accounts and credit cards without their husbands. Whenever I hear that, it blows my mind. In the 70s.
So I want to throw this very random. I've seen a lot of discussion. I cannot speak to Cameron because I don't know. But what I've seen or gleaned from Nigerian Twitter, regardless of if you have the same name with the child, it is very difficult as a mother to travel with your child outside of Nigeria. If there's so much trouble, it doesn't matter if you have the same last name on the passport. It appears you need paperwork from the father to be able to travel with your child as the mother. The father does not need anything from you.
So I've seen something in the US, and I don't know what situation it applies in, but I remember when I was working at the bank, at the branch, I used to be a notary. And I remember I've notarized forms for parents to travel with their children. And again, I don't know what is the circumstance.
So it's standard. It's child trafficking. Parents are going through a divorce. So Cameroon does that too. You don't want they're having issues, somebody steals the child. So just like the same way that getting a passport, both parents have to sign and be present to get a child passport. When you're traveling, if only one parent is traveling, you need a notarized letter signed by both parties that you're okay with this travel. And so that's what I've used that going to Cameroon, even trying to get a Cameroon visa to take a child, a Cameroonian child born in the US or immigrant child, child born to immigrant parents, even traveling with them from here and needing a visa, you have to send that notarized letter to be able to get the visa. And you have
parents, not just
both parents. And what I'm saying is particular to Nigeria. It seems that it's just the mother needs permission from the father to travel with the child. And this is today in 2024, not in 19th. It's currently.
What what's the logic? You're taking your child off somewhere, you're kidnapping your child to go start a new life somewhere, then that should be happy. They never want the responsibility anyway.
No, well, you just need permission from the head of the household.
Oh, share of house. I'm sorry.
Because apparently even the same thing happens with citizenship. See, we're getting distracted. But it's men can confer citizenship on their partners in a way that women cannot. It's not the same process.
I've heard that one, which is wild.
So
it's wild. That's insane. But yeah, this bank account one blows my mind. 1974. And that's why we're going to talk about, young women pushing back against feminism. But when I see these girlies online talking about, I'm not a feminist, feminism has fooled us, I just go softly to the comments and say, hey, girlie, do you have a bank account? You got a credit card in your name? Was your husband there to open that with you? Because who fought for the right for you to be able to do that? It was feminists. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like there's either a lack of education or people are just being intentionally disingenuous.
I'll go with the lack of education. It's ignorance. And it applies to a lot of things in the society that we currently live in. But I think it's ignorance, and because of the ignorance, people take those things for granted. Because I would say that while in Cameroon, I don't know the history of like women being able to open bank accounts, but you still run into people being in your business at the bank, and since they're not very strict privacy laws, women are going through hoops to hide their money. Yes, hide their money. Because you need to have something. But we'll get to that. That you could go to the bank in Cameroon and you have this account, like you and your partner have a joint account, but a lot of women know that more often than not, women usually have that account that is their account. And you have to be careful, and people go through hoops because they are bankers who are ready to call their husbands to say, did you know your husband, your wife has this secret account?
Wow. That is insane. Like, is that part of your job description, sir?
No, they're nosy. What else?
Okay, so that was second wave. Third wave was the 90s, and these people, were the daughters of the second wave, feminism. This period was marked by greater political activism, embracing sexuality and individuality, and then greater inclusivity in the feminist movement, right? So we talk about intersectionality, women of color, being included in the feminist movement. So usually people talk about three waves. Some people say that there's a fourth wave of feminism, which is what we are in today. Some people disagree that we're still in the continuation of the third wave. I mean, for me, it's semantics. It doesn't really matter. Like, what difference does it make? But this wave or sub-wave that we're in, I would say it is characterized by greater online community, right? A lot of the organization is being done online. The activism is being done online. And then also greater intersectionality. Obviously, like, this is the most intersectional that feminism has ever been in all the waves. So yeah, I don't understand why the fights, third wave, fourth wave, like what difference does it make?
What does it matter? We're still fighting. It's an ongoing fight. We take 10 steps forwards, 50 steps backwards.
Right.
And it's a fight that our grandmothers fought, and we are fighting, and the people after us are going to be fighting. So unfortunately,
but we have to do our part to make their fight easier or give them the weapons.
I don't know if we are making it. It's like that thing about technology has made our lives easier, but it's also made our lives harder.
Yeah, that's true. Because we're gonna talk about the trad wives, right? And that is an online phenomenon that, it's harmful, but we're gonna talk about that. But yeah, you're right. Like, the way information spreads online, it can be used for good, obviously. Like, a lot of my feminist consciousness, awareness, education has been from social media, learning from other feminists on social media. But social media can also be extremely harmful in, propagating misogyny and harmful ideas. We see the red pill, the podcast bros, Kevin Samuels and his descendants. Okay, so the question that I wanted us to ask ourselves and attempt to answer is feminism in her flop era. I say yes. I don't know about you. I'm not very hopeful, but
I don't know. I don't know where it is, but I just think that it depends on where you are and where you're plugged in, because sometimes, far too often, you find that there's a disconnect between what is being said online and what is being said in like physical places and spaces. We'll look at bars. And the thing with online is like sometimes it's hard to tell what is real and what is really connected to society outside of the internet, because you could just have a few really loud voices where, because they have a platform, it goes really widespread, whereas like the average person, that's not what they subscribe to. But because it's like this one person with so many followers, then it becomes a thing and everybody is talking about it. So it's hard to judge. I think that we are still making strides in getting women involved and included in society, but we're also taking L's because in a strange way, like I would tie this to like divert. What is DEI?
DEI.
That thing. I remember complaining a few years ago that why is it at least from my vantage point, a lot of the DI, like chief diverse, it was always women. And far too often I noticed that it was Black women. And so now that everybody's pushing back on DI initiatives, not everybody, but Republicans primarily are pushing back on DI initiatives. Look at it's like women are bearing the brunt of it because they were the people that were put in these, what I think a lot of them were just so that they look good on the outside, because whenever they will talk, you hear like you have the DI role, but it's not plugged into like HR or any other system where they're giving you things to say, hey, this is how we can improve. It just exists in a vacuum and it has no real effect on society. Whereas we see that with, you know, more women going into the workforce, more women being hopefully a slight increase at women in management, women in politics, but just having women in certain spaces improves the lives of everybody, men, women, society as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I want to segue something that I found out a few years ago that just really blew my mind. It was like like feminism and urban development, right? Where back in the day, the man left the house and went to work, and everything is like the way towns were built. You can see that they were not built with two working parents or two income households. Where I think there's more like the suburbs back in the day was just residential. You didn't have it was just houses, whereas now you have suburbs and they're making an effort to have a grocery store and all the things that you need, where it's like something simple as like urban development and not even taking into account that these are the things that you need a community. Like if there's housing, daycares that are close to, you know, you're not just going to put daycares in the center of the city. You want daycares to also be closer to where the living is being done. So I wouldn't say it's in this flop era, but I do think because of the internet and people and podcasts, TikTok.
Not this one though, not this one. This is a good kind of podcast.
Because of all of these things and people not knowing what it means or being intentionally obtuse, it would appear that feminism is in this flop era, but I don't believe so. Aesthetically,
Yeah.
Aesthetically,
Right. The rhetoric, right, is in this flop era, but I mean, we need to change it, right? Yes, online is online and it doesn't always translate into real life, but some of it does, and that part is dangerous. So we need to combat that online rhetoric. But to your point, women make better leaders. Like that several studies have shown that when women get involved in different areas in leadership, the outcomes are better for everybody. A study was recently published about women surgeons, and they analyzed their patients over a 12-year period. Female surgeons, their patients have better long-term outcomes than male surgeons. So when you put women in spaces where they have been traditionally excluded and surgery is still male dominated, but when women enter these fields, everybody benefits, right? Everybody benefits from feminism, even the people who talk shit about it. But yeah, so I mean, to your point, maybe it's not in its flop era, but it's definitely the progress is not happening at the rates that it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, we're taking some steps back, to be honest, like Roe v. Wade being reversed, like that is huge.
Roe v. Wade, Alabama and IVF. I'm not laughing. I just thought about, they said that an embryo is a person, and somebody took a picture of them frying an egg and said, can I claim this on my taxes?
So just to get the listeners up to speed, those who might not be aware, yeah, the Alabama Supreme Court recently ruled in a case recently that embryos are people. They are treated as children. And the background of this case is that some embryos in an IVF clinic were damaged. I don't know if they were damaged intentionally or by accident. So the parents sued. I don't know if they sued the clinic or the person who damaged them. And the court ruled that the embryos counted as a person, as a child. And as a result, a major clinic in Alabama has shut down. So they're just like, they cannot bear that
risk.
Yeah, the legal risk. They have embryos in freezers, right? If the court is saying that all of these embryos are people, what happens when that lab destroys the embryo or something happens? I don't know if
it's not even destroying. It's like sometimes people do cycles of IVF and egg retrievals. Not all the embryos are viable, so they have to destroy some of them because IVF is so expensive. And not just the financial cost, the emotional and physical toll it takes on a woman's body. And so there's like the science works, right? That is the basis of science. You do the experiment, you can repeat it all over. They can tell the embryos that are viable, because what is the point of taking a non-viable embryo, implanting it in a woman, and then you're expecting only for her to lose the pregnancy and go through another expensive cycle of pregnancy? And so they try to get as many eggs and they fertilize them, but not all of them will be viable. And Alabama now does not want them to be able to destroy the non-viable embryos. And like I said, somebody said, so can we get social security numbers for these embryos so we can start claiming them?
It's a valid question. If my partner and I start IVF, okay, I have embryos in the freezer. If my partner and I get a divorce, can I sue him for child support for the embryos that are in the freezer? They are children, Abby. Can I sue him? Can I claim them on my taxes? Can I deduct that money for my taxes? Those are children. What is the responsibility of the clinic? They have to provide a safe environment for those children.
I mean, give them so at least it can help to pay, because storage is not free.
It's not. But you see how like this kind of thinking, and when they passed that ruling, they quoted a Bible verse. This is how insane America is. And this is what religious fundamentalism is going to do. Ultimately, you people think you're hurting liberals, you think you're hurting non-Christians. It will ultimately hurt everybody, because now Christian women also in Alabama, and it will go to other states if this is not rectified and reversed, you will not be able to get IVF treatment. It will hurt everybody. This is what happens when you guys, think that everybody should follow your religion.
And what is damaging, I don't know if there are women on the Alabama Supreme Court, but then again, it's just, you find now that a lot of these people don't have an understanding of what an embryo is. They don't even know what IVF is, because while they want to cheer on Alabama for passing this because it stands with their religious beliefs, you find that Mike Pence has a child that was conceived via IVF. You have a lot of lawmakers. Today, I watched a video of the head coach for Auburn University, which is in Alabama, was talking about it. But he's a hardline Republican. His son and his wife were in the process of IVF.
There you go.
It's affecting people. And it's like, oh, so this one, you cannot nitpick. Once people opened the floodgates to start controlling, now you see why the government should not be telling you what you can and cannot do in your body. But at the same time, they want all of us barefoot and pregnant, because who was it? Somebody. Was it Tommy Tuberville? Somebody.
Yes, it was him.
Who said we need more children. And they said, but IVF is how you get more children. And so now the wheels are probably not all spinning too. Like Baby said, the head is kind of hollow. I don't think that it's full yet. It's like anti-intellectualism meets, I don't even know, because if they went to biology class, they will know that an embryo cannot survive. It's an embryo. It's not.
It's a clump of cells.
Cells.
That's literally what it is. And up to a very late stage, if I show you a chicken embryo under the microscope and a human, you will not be able to tell them apart. They look identical. Anyway, I was reading an article about one of these Republican women who was celebrating the reversal of Roe v. Wade. Because when people think of abortion, I don't know, in their minds, they're like, oh, you whores, you want to go and sleep around and just go to the abortion clinic. Then that's the image that they have in their mind, right? This woman, again, hardline Republican, was celebrating that. She had an ectopic pregnancy. Now it was her time to go and get treatment for that. Could she get it? People think that abortion is only to terminate, viable unwanted pregnancies. Abortion is health care. I mean, we already did an episode on this, so let's not, let me not take us off on that tangent, but it just goes to show, again, to your point, anti-intellectualism and this religious fundamentalism is going to hurt everybody in the end. All of us will learn the hard way and then we'll come back.
I also want to just give honorable mention to the state of Missouri that has either passed or is trying to pass some law that states you cannot get divorced when you're pregnant. It doesn't matter if you are. Yes. Mm-hmm. We are living in the sunken place. Like, listen, ladies, we might as well just get with the program. Wear your kaba sankale song and just walk barefoot, because that's really the end game here. That seems like the ultimate.
We'll do like Korean women. Korean women have said they're not getting married, they're not dating, it's like a nationwide protest of women. They're sick and tired of the way they're being treated. I think it's called, is it the 3B or the 4B movement? I only remember it because it matches a hair type. But yeah, they're doing their movement and they're like, they're done. So that's what the women in America need to. We have too many pick-me's here. It's not going to work, but we'll get into that. So the reason I was asking is feminism in her flop era. And if I'm going to take the position of yes, I blame two things that have happened in what we'll want to call maybe the third or fourth wave of feminism. Two things is the girl boss and choice feminism. Those are the two culprits that have pushed her into her flop era. And I'll tell you why. We'll take one at a time. Let me know if you agree with me. The girl boss is, I'm sure everybody knows what a girl boss is. A powerful, accomplished woman. And
is it?
When we celebrate that as a feminist win, without looking at, one, the intersectionality, and two, what is really the impact, right? Feminism is not an individualistic movement, but the girl boss archetype makes it out to be. So as long as you are making your career accomplishments, you have your money, you have this, you have that, you're taking care of this, you're a boss ass bitch, that's a feminist win. And we're not looking at, are you harming other women in the process of that? The two people that I thought of, in politics, we can talk about women who have broken glass ceilings. Hillary Clinton, Condoleezza Rice, we talked about her in the last episode? I think so. These are women who made great accomplishments, right, in their political careers. We can call them, girl bosses or whatever, glass ceiling breakers. But as a result of this, they have been part of extremely harmful policies, U.S. military foreign operations that have harmed women, right? Because when a region or a country goes into conflict, goes into war, women bear the brunt of that. If we look at DRC, I should have put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode. So trigger warning, content warning. Democratic Republic of Congo and Sudan, these are two areas that are experiencing conflicts. And one of the first things you hear, women are being sexually assaulted. There's a quote that I've seen and it will make you vomit, like this certain number of women are being sexually assaulted per hour. But these are the things that happen in war. These are the things that happen when regions are destabilized. So if you are a woman in a position of political power and you are a part of this war machine, I don't care whatever heights you have reached that other women have not reached before. If your actions and your positions are hurting other women, for me, that's not a feminist win. And we have lost sight of the larger goal when we celebrate these women. I think for me, the fourth wave for us has to be saying, no, we're not going to celebrate you just because. We're going to look at the larger impact of what does your accomplishment mean, not just for you. We're not looking at just you. What does it mean for other women?
So here's the thing, especially if we're picking politics, right? We have to remember that in politics, these women are working as part of a whole and they're working on behalf of a country. And so I don't know much about Condoleezza Rice, to be honest, and like the legislation that she pushed for. But I would say Hillary Clinton, even as far back as when she was first lady, and some of the things that she pushed for to benefit women in society, where she got pushed back because they said she was too involved in what they wanted her to sit back at home barefoot and fry pancakes. Yeah, it's like it was an issue, right? And so I feel like if we look at it in the context, like there are two women, and if we look at the numbers of women in politics, like their numbers in there, you have to take this, especially with politics, where you're not going to, I don't think in politics everybody's ever going to be satisfied, right? You're trying to be at center where you're satisfying in the middle. And yes, they've aligned with things that were wrong. I think when the genocide in Rwanda started, if I remember correctly, Madeleine Albright was Secretary of State. And that's when everybody, turned their heads, and we know what happened in Rwanda after that. But she was not the ultimate, like, yes person. I don't think that even if she said, I want to do this, I want to do that, it would not have carried weight, because ultimately she was not the one with the final say. So I think that it's unfair to put these women and say that it's not a feminist win, because in some ways like I said, I don't know much about Condoleezza Rice, but I would say that in some ways, Hillary Clinton, at least domestically, advocated for women. But I will go to Aung San Suu Kyi in is it Myanmar or Burma? I don't know which one
now
is
it's
it really.
Myanmar. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is somebody where, one of those, like, everybody was championing, like, getting office.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't necessarily great.
She was terrible. She was terrible. She literally did the things and she was in prison for a while by the prior regime. And she came into power and literally did the same thing. So, but I know what you mean by saying it's unfair, but I'll bring it back to the point that women bear the brunt of these bad decisions. So for me, it's not a feminist win if a woman is going into a space and just replicating or emulating the same violent, leadership that men have been doing. Then what? I get it. Also, yeah, it's a win, but is that really the larger point? For us to go and be doing the things the way men have been doing it? By and large, male leadership has got us into a world where there's injustice, inequality, violence.
During COVID, I pointed out, I think at some point, that the countries that seem to have handled their COVID response the best were the countries that had female leaders. Back when Jacinda Ardern was still there, when Angela Merkel was in Germany, like, by and large, those were women who handled it. But again, I also say, like, it depends. The system also matters, right? Because we're looking at, these are systems where maybe it's more centralized. The chancellor in Germany definitely has more power, more control over what they can and cannot do. New Zealand just is very lucky not to have Rupert Murdoch in their country, so their fake news issues and other extremism is not as bad. But yeah, it's like women in positions of power, we see it everywhere. Look at Liberia, when Ellen Sirleaf Johnson came, after all the crises that they had in Liberia, and after her, she handed over power to George Weah. George Weah lost the election and handed over power to Joseph with no issue.
Mm-hmm. Yes, when women do it, I don't want to say the woman's way, when they do it differently, yes. But when they come in, and I totally get your point, is it unfair? It's unfair, yes. But I mean, the stakes are too high. I saw a quote, oh, Jesus. This is a quote from May Golan, who is the Minister of Social Equality and Women's Advancement in Israel. I'm quoting directly. She says,
my chest.
no, she says, I am personally proud of the ruins of Gaza and that every baby, even 80 years from now, will tell their grandchildren what the Jews did. I'll repeat, this genocidal jankro is the Minister of Social Equality and Women's Advancement. Like,
But, and here's the thing, right? I'll bring it back to America politics, right? When Hillary Clinton was running for president in 2008, do you know who her greatest ops were? Who were her, just think who her greatest ops were.
white Republican women?
White women, not white Republican, white women. White women are the reason she did not get the nomination.
But that we know that about them. They are constantly voting against their own interests. We know that.
But and that's what I'm saying. Like in this country, as a female politician in this country, it's like you want to go and work hard, but it's almost like you have to work hard, but not too hard. You know, you have to be strong, but not too strong.
Yeah, I know.
And you're constantly fighting. And then, like, I used Lauren Underwood a few weeks ago, right? I read an article and I felt really bad for her because she talked about like her loneliness and just all the things she cannot do because she's constantly on her toes. She's constantly running for a re-election, and she's won 2 or 3 times now in what is a Republican area as a Democrat, but it's always by these very thin margins. So it's like she feels restricted unto, like, even dating, who can she trust to date? What if, it's a setup? There's just so much pressure on her that Chad and them don't have.
I get it. And the thing, I hate criticizing women, female politicians, women in general, in like a general, I don't know, forum or context, because misogyny enters the chat with a quickness. Like, people cannot criticize a woman's policies, her behavior, without sprinkling misogyny in there, and that makes it so difficult. There's a lot of things that you can say about Hillary's policies, right? But when people start, talking about, oh, that's why your husband cheated on you, oh, this, you're ugly, this and that, talking about their looks, when misogyny enters, like, it is so exhausting. So I get it, absolutely. It's very, very unfair for women in politics, because it's an uphill battle, regardless of their stance on issues. Yeah, no, that one I agree with you. I know that is unfair, but
I would say on girl bosses, when you said girl boss, I burst out laughing because at least once a quarter I complain. I hate girl boss, mompreneur, CEO,
Shiro,
Shiro, CEO. Like, why can't you just be a CEO?
I
Why
hate
can't
those
you just...
stupid words.
and when I think of mompreneurs, I think of pyramid schemes, because I remember an article. I don't remember what company they're talking about, and they said somebody girl bossed too close to the sun, and that's why her company filed for bankruptcy. When we talk girl boss, I think about the Lola Rowe, Mary Kay, all these what are they? MLM, multi-level marketing. Yeah. And they have such beautiful graphics on the internet, and they're like Plexus. That's another one. Plexus supplements, pink drink. I remember following this one girl. She was selling Plexus. It was mind-boggling because I'm like, surely you see that there's something wrong. She sold Plexus for like 4 years. Then one day she's like, I'm no longer going to be talking about that company on this page anymore. No explanation. So I'm like, what about the people you signed up last week under you? Like, did you tell them you were planning to quit? Then when she went to the next one, she never said the name of the company, but it's always like, are you ready to talk about this opportunity?
Lord.
When I see girl boss, I get irrationally angry. So yeah.
No, I mean, I get it. I don't think about MLMs when I think of girl boss. I think of actual, career women, accomplished women. I do think of like the female tech founder. That's like a stereotypical girl boss, right?
No, she's just a boss.
I think of the archetype. What's this girl? the one who thought she was Steve Jobs,
Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes.
Yes, that
Until
is
she was,
the
she was
girl,
changing her voice.
girl boss. But yeah, so you're saying like shifting from politics to, regular entrepreneurship or, corporate careers. If you are a highly accomplished woman, you get the example of business owners. You're a girl boss, you own your company. If you're underpaying your staff, you're treating them poorly. Are we celebrating you? Is that a feminist win? I say no.
No,
Right?
no. In the same way, gender and race, ethnicity, all skin folk and kin folk, it's not every woman that is for women. You have the girlies who are like, I'm not a girl, I don't really have a lot of female friends. I don't get a lot. I mean, I will say it now for the first and last time. I used to be one of them. I was like, I'm so misunderstood. Hey, I was like, I'm so misunderstood by women. I was just an asshole. That's all that I was to it. Simple.
Bad vibes.
It was not, no, I'm just so misunderstood. I do not care about people's feelings, but that's how I am, So it's not all women. I don't know where she is today, Marissa Myers. She was a Silicon Valley girl boss. I hate that word. She went from I can't remember, but she took over Yahoo when they were still trying to make Yahoo happen, in the last days. I think she was the one who bought Tumblr for Yahoo. And the first thing she did, Yahoo by then was letting people do remote work. This was 2013, 2012. They were already doing remote work. She decided that everybody had to come back to the office, which already made her unpopular. And then I read a profile they did on her. She had a baby, but she had an office big enough where she made a creche and she came to work with the baby and the nanny. So because you have the means to afford that, what about the other people on your team who Silicon Valley is expensive. So working from home works for some people because you're cutting down on commuting expense and certain expenses. So she brought everybody back to office, but she brought her kid with a nanny to the office. It's not like she opened a daycare, hey guys, let's have this community daycare in the office so we all benefit. I think that would be that somebody thinking about it in terms of how does this benefit everybody versus just me. That's a girl boss. This other one, that's a she-you.
That's what I'm saying, right? So somebody who you have just described, I will not be surprised to see her on the cover of a magazine being featured as a woman of the year, right?
That's where this profile came from.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess there was no self-awareness to see that this was not a good look.
Right. So we should not be platforming or praising those kind of women in the context of women's empowerment, right?
Yes.
We can praise them for normal career, but in the context of women's empowerment and feminism, no. That's, you cannot call yourself, and I don't know if she was calling herself a feminist, or we cannot be praising you for,
it's a win for you. It's not a win for women. It's a win for you.
Exactly. So the other, like I said, the other culprits that I blame for the flop era of feminism is choice feminism. And for me, choice feminism is not real feminism. It is just something that we more and more are adopting to make ourselves feel better about our individual decisions that are ultimately not feminist. And I want to just start out by saying that every decision that a woman makes does not have to be a feminist decision. Right? It's not a moral judgment, but I think we need to be a little bit more objective about what is actually feminism or a feminist decision and what is simply conforming with a patriarchal norm, right? I'll give the example, which I see online a lot these days, women who have chosen to be stay-at-home moms. Now, each case is different, right? A woman and her partner are discussing their income or whatever, who would be the best person to stay at home. But a woman choosing to be a stay-at-home mom, that is a traditional gender role, regardless of what factors led to that decision for her to be a stay-at-home mom. That is a traditional gender role. She's conforming to a societal patriarchal standard. Because the fact that she chose to stay at home versus going to work, the fact that she had a choice, that is not feminism. Just you having the choice to do one thing or the other, it's not feminism. And again, it's not a moral judgment. But I see it and I'm talking about it because I see it online and women trying to claim that, but that is the point of feminism, for me to be able to choose to stay at home. No, it's not. The point of feminism is you are choosing to stay at home because you have made that decision with your partner. And by staying at home, you are still going to maintain you are going to have financial independence. There's only one way for me that a stay-at-home parent, regardless of their gender, that for me, there's only one way that it can be fair. And I'm validated because I've seen divorce lawyers talking about this. You have to be receiving income from the partner that's working. As they're receiving their paycheck every month or every 2 weeks, you are getting something into an account that you own by yourself. That's the only way that, in my honest opinion, not that I would ever be a stay-at-home parent, but in my honest opinion, that is the only way that it is fair. And that's regardless of gender of the person that's staying at home, because you have to have your own financial independence.
So while I hear you, I'm struggling with that because I think that when I said feminism like equal, whatever, I think that back in the day when it was like, it's just a given that because you're a woman, you're going to stay home and raise kids. And so if say you work and then you started having kids and you decided that, hey, I'd rather be here and be present with my kids, I think that feminism is what gives you the option, because somebody is not telling you, no, you have to go to work because we need this money. Like you saying, hey, I want to sit back and making the choice for yourself. I think that those are the things that feminism allows as a society, that you make that choice for yourself. And it's not dictated by the fact that you're a woman, by your gender. Like maybe somebody made more and whatever reasons you decided. When it comes to couple finances, I do agree with that. And I've seen other cases where the person who works and the person who controls the household finances, like the partner who is at home is the person who controls the finances. So there's like direct deposit into their account and they manage their account and they run the household. And so
is it a joint account? Do they only have a joint account? That's a problem.
No, but I'm just saying that I do agree with you. Like having access to the finances is definitely yes, because there's a thin line between somebody controlling you. Every other day they want to remind you that they go to work, they're the person. Because stay at home parenting, bless your hearts. Stay at home parenting while homeschooling, I would be an alcoholic. That's what I have to say about that.
But that's what the girlies are pushing online. But we'll talk about that in a second. The third wives. But what I wanted to say about, yes, I hear you, right? If the goal of feminism was to give women that power to say, I want to work, or it's better for me to stay with my kids. But we have to put it in the context that most stay-at-home parents are still women. So I think that says something, right? Whether it's because in most couples, the man is the one who earns more, that's a problem, or just because that is the default, right? When the decision is being made, it's being defaulted to the woman for whatever reason, whether based on the assumption that she's the one who can better care for the children, aka nurturer, natural nurturer.
See, what I think what I would like to see is maybe in a decade, because I've seen reports where they said Black women out-earn Black men by X percentage currently. So I would like to see in a decade, let's say give and take, I don't know what the demographic, let's see where those numbers are to determine if it's like, because if you're the high earner, you're quitting, I would find difficult saying that was a choice. Like you cannot be the higher earner and I would struggle with
that. But that's what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying. Like in that case, you can say, yes, it was a choice. I'm empowered to make this choice, but but to your point, because you brought up Black women and race, first of all, most couples in the US cannot afford to have one parent staying at home. And when we're talking about Black people and other people of color, it's even more uncommon because you need both incomes. So this, stay-at-home mom conversation in itself, it's a privilege. I want to say it's a privileged section of the population that can do it. I don't know if I'm wrong, but
it is. And I think that is also technically new to a lot of other people. Because when we talk of trad wife and stay-at-home mom, there's a very thin segment of the population that did that throughout history. And this is one that goes, I would speak to growing up in Cameroon and here, like from when the first ships landed here, people worked in the house or in the field, they were a wet nurse. Black women have never had the opportunity to just be like, oh, I'm going to chill, I'm just going to sit here. They were raising their kids and them other people's kids. If you even go back, I always say that when people talk about feminism, they should please leave us out of it, because we all know our grandmothers, like no matter what, our grandmothers might not have been formally educated. They might not have gone to the office. But I know that I don't know anybody whose grandmother just stayed at home. They went to the farm. There was one small store in front of the house where she was selling. And you now find out that is that store that was making more money than whatever the uncles and granduncles were going to do at these jobs they were going to. So stay-at-home parenting is new for a lot of people outside of, I want to say, WASPs, because they are the ones whose husbands went to work and they stayed at home. That was not the reality for Black and possibly immigrant families.
Agreed. The other thing that I want to talk about, and this is a delicate topic and I want to approach it delicately, is women choosing to do cosmetic surgery. And I'm bringing it up because, again, I've heard it being brought up in that context of saying, it is empowering, right? And I understand it in that aspect of saying, okay, I'm a woman, I make my own money, I have my own money, and I can afford to pay for these surgeries to make myself, whatever, look how I want. But again, you are doing something that is conforming to a standard of the patriarchy. I don't see that as, when we talk about women's empowerment in the context of feminism, that is not an empowering thing. I'll use a silly example, not silly, but like, a different example. I shave my legs, as do most women in the West, right? Nobody forces me to shave my legs. There is little to no social consequence of me shaving my legs. It is a patriarchal, it's a misogynistic, standard of beauty for women to shave their legs. There's no hygienic benefits to it. I use my own money and I buy my razors and I shave my legs. Because I use my own money and I make that choice to shave my legs, I'm still doing something that is conforming. That is not a feminist action. It's not an empowering, and again, everything that I do does not have to be a feminist action. And we're not passing judgment of that, but I think it gets dangerous when we start discussing these choices that we're making and saying, oh, because I chose to do it and I used my money that I make to do it, then it is empowering. It's not.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. Oh yeah, I was definitely going to say that, because when you said it's patriarchal, I'm just like, no, I don't like body hair. That is just my personal preference. It's not for any, I just hate it. And I have hair in a lot of places. I had to remove some yesterday. I was just very angry because I don't understand why it's just everywhere. Ideally, I want to look like a dolphin. Just
okay, Flipper.
I like body hair. Let's not go there. But yes, I hear you. Like, just do your thing and say I like it. It's not, you're not doing, you're not making any great statement or anything. Just do it because you enjoy it. Finish, full stop, the end.
Yeah. And you also don't have to discuss it. Like, that's the thing that gets me, is that you don't
have to defend yourself. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying, that we are using choice feminism as a crutch to make us feel better about the ways in which we are conforming. It's okay. And I'll say this about cosmetic surgery. Beauty is political, right? People who are attractive they get treated better. In some ways they have better quality of life. And women are scrutinized to the nth degree for their appearance. So I don't think that it's fair for us to criticize women who go to these lengths to get cosmetic surgery to fit a certain beauty standards, because society punishes people, particularly women, who don't fit a certain standard, right? So I get that. And yeah, we should not, I get so angry when I see people laughing at women's BBLs, because when that woman had a flat ass, you people were also laughing at and I'm saying this as somebody who has been body shamed throughout my life for that. But you people are laughing at her she had a flat, but now she has come up put BBL, you're laughing at her BBL. You can't win. You can't win. So I guess if I had to give the girlies any advice, do what you're doing, but do not expect.
Do it for
that-
yourself.
I don't think you're doing it for yourself. I'm going to be very
I
honest.
know, but I want to say do it because when you look in the mirror, it's like, oh, look at my thick ass. Like I like how I look in this dress. Don't do it because, oh, if I look like this in this dress, then I'm going to people will like me more. Or because I've seen it where I was talking about just general cosmetic trends with a friend recently, and her final word was, and their husbands are still cheating on them. And I found that I laugh, but I think it's very sad. And I always get really worried whenever I hear, I'm like, I just hope she's doing it for her. Because if somebody was going to cheat on you or leave you, it's not surgery that's going to make them stay. So at the end of the day, I hope that when you decide to have surgery, you're doing it for yourself in a way that makes you feel better. Same way that I say, like, women put on, I swear that women put on makeup for other women, because the way that a compliment hits when a woman notices, like my lipstick, I want to tell her which exact one I bought, how I applied it, in a way that I believe that when I wear makeup more often than not, I'm wearing because other women will notice me and we're going to give each other compliments. Do it for yourself. Like, do it so that when you look in the mirror, you feel better.
I'll challenge that, right? Because what we like when we look at ourselves in the mirror is informed by society, unfortunately, right? So if I do something to myself and ultimately, I like what I see in the mirror, what I like is informed by the reason why you like the big butt is because big butts are attractive in society. It's like when certain Black men say that, oh, it's just a preference, I like light-skinned women, it's just a preference. Your preference is informed by the colorist and racist society in which you live. That preference is not in a vacuum. It is within a context. So I agree with you, right? Do it, but don't expect that you're going to, people are going to suddenly stop being assholes or stop being, and like I said, the same people that were mocking your flat butt will mock that BBL.
See, you're talking about somebody mocking your flat butt. I had a classmate, there were two of us, where there's another one who always remind us how, look at us with our hips and look at your butt, like, people like, but we have flat. Yes, she would, unprovoked. I didn't say anything to her. She would just be dressing and tell us how she looks much better than us in jeans. We did not say anything to her. I'm literally at some point, what did I do to you? And this is in boarding school. We didn't even have mirrors, because I'm sure that if I had access to a mirror, I would have probably been like, let me see what she's seeing. Because I don't understand why this girl insisted on every other couple of days to remind me that she had, first of all, she didn't even have a waist. Her legs went from her legs to her stomach. But
hey, we don't body shame here.
It's not body shame. I just say I never went to her like, where's your waist, girl? So why did she think that it was okay to just keep her?
Yeah, she was projecting. See, this is my rule, right? And nobody will ever convince me that this shit is incorrect. People who are mean to other people who mock other people's physical appearance, just like what she was doing, right? Those people are deeply insecure. She was projecting. Like, you will never convince me otherwise. Like, it's projection.
But like what you're saying about society informs what we see as beautiful. So I'll use me as an example. 2016, 2017, I was heavy into Snapchat filters, right? And I'll always I'll post a picture. I'll be like, this is not my real face. So this is just a filter. Right. And it's like funny. I was always very mindful to be like, hey, I'm not catfishing. This is not my face. But then I want to say late 2017, I would take a picture with no filter. I'll be looking at this like, who is this
that
person?
you?
That's not me. That's not what I look like. And when I noticed that I was struggling with my own face, I stopped using filters and I don't use them anymore. Like I'm very, very afraid of filters. Because I remember like I would take a picture and I'm looking like how is this me? This is not what I look like. And like I got so used to what I look like with the filters that I didn't even recognize my own face. And so it's like you have to be self-aware enough to like be comfortable with who you are as you are.
I agree. Like I have friends who like their default camera is the Snapchat camera and it's always on a certain filter. When they take pictures of me, I'm always shocked. I'm like, hey, look at my nose. It's like it gives you this tiny little doll nose. Like, first of all, that's very is very Afrophobic because it always makes your nose look extremely small. You know, and then you have some kind of cheekbones.
You have lashes.
See,
yes, I have an auntie who it wasn't until my sister mentioned that every time she opened whenever she gave her phone, it was already opened with a filter. She did not take a single unfiltered picture, and we realized when she was telling us how she's so skinny, it's only her stomach, that it does filter. She doesn't see what we are seeing.
I don't know if you remember this creator called Lip Gloss. They bullied her off social media, but she had like a really radical message, which was true, but for me, it's the most difficult thing that women will ever embrace. And her message was that be okay with being ugly. And she was speaking, I want to say she was speaking from the context of a dark-skinned Black woman who has, and I'm sorry, I'm not really familiar with all the terms of hair, but, you know, tight coiled hair, like African hair, right? And that was her message. She was like, that is really the ultimate liberation. And I agree with her, but it's the most difficult thing to just be okay being ugly. Like you will free yourself from the shackles of society. But again, I don't know that you can do it 100%. You can work towards it.
This thing with beauty where I've just said, like, I think that when we realize like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, by and large, yes, right? If we look at society as a bell curve, the majority of people fall, you know, smack dab in the middle, and we have people at the extremes. Beauty is subjective. Like there are people that I could see as drop dead gorgeous, and someone will be like, she's alright. Like, what do you mean?
It's subjective to an extent, right?
There's conventional beauty.
Yeah. And the more that we have to retrain our minds from having that conventional beauty standard as our standard, personally, it's going to take a lot of work, but you untrain your mind. And then you also just divest from beauty, just divest from wanting to be, I don't know if it's humanly possible, but you can take baby steps. And yeah, that for me, I see it's idealistic, but you can work towards it and kind of free yourself a little bit.
So I would use the context of raising girls, right? Something that I have tried, probably failed a few times, but tried with intention from the time my daughter was very young, was compliments come in the form of, oh my God, you're so kind. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at you, you're so strong. As I try very much not to do you're pretty, I don't do physical compliments. Mm-hmm. Just so that we remove that emphasis on how do I look? What do I look like? It's more of like, who are you as a person? And try to reinforce those kinds. Obviously, they'll go to school, you know, 10-year-olds are now going to Sephora and other things. So there is that. But I think that hopefully, who knows, hopefully that has some effect, that there's less focus on the physical appearance and more on the character of the person that you are.
I think so. I think it does impact, kids. You're doing a good job. We'll keep up.
I'm trying. We're only going to get results in like 10 years.
Okay, so we've been talking about, like online movement, online versus reality. And there's a big push, at least that's my perception. Maybe it depends on the neighborhoods that you hang out in online, but I see a big pushback from young women pushing back against what they think is feminism. Because again, like I said in the beginning, the things that I hear them saying, there's this viral video that's going around on TikTok. This stupid white girl, she's walking around saying, I'm not a feminist. I like wearing dresses. So she's saying that feminists don't like wearing dresses. I said, please come and look at my closet. Like, so these kind of stupid stereotypes about what a feminist is and is not. You talked about makeup. I love makeup. I consider myself a feminist, you know, so, but we have these stereotypes and we see young women pushing back against what they perceive to be feminism. I saw another girlie saying, feminism lied to us. I don't want to work anymore. I just want to find, you know, a rich husband to
provide.
To look after me. To provide, yes, that's the word that they love to use.
I saw one today. It was pretty bad because she looked old, but they've also said Gen Zs tend to look much older than they are. She said she doesn't understand the rationale behind the girls trip, but she also said she doesn't have any friends, so that's part one of the explanation. She said, "Why would you travel with your friends? That she likes to be taken care of. She wants a man who pay for stuff. So why is she going to travel with a bunch of her friends and?" You know, they have to take care of themselves.
I'll say this, that girl is broke, right? That I don't know her, but from that statement, I already know that she's broke. And I empathize because I think the economy is what is driving some of this sentiment that they see that girlies are struggling, they're broke. But I don't think turning to men is the answer. The men's are also broke. I don't know if you guys have noticed. So
they're broke.
Yeah.
It sounds more fancy when you say broke.
It's economic anxiety.
Yes. It's all garbage, you know.
But yeah, you see, I mean, and that what I said, that video is not uncommon, right? You see that sentiment that you're saying, I've heard it before in different forums.
I want a provider. I want a provider.
They want to be taken care of. And this is a fantasy. This is like one of those things you were saying that exists only online and not in reality. This is a fantasy. And it worries me that so many young women are subscribing to it because they will be frustrated in real life.
It makes me wonder, do they talk to their mothers? That's my question.
Do they talk to men? What makes you think these men have the funds?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Do they talk to their mothers who are probably the ones covering the bills at home? Do they talk to people who like real life experience? Because you just said that my friend went on Hinge, and like I said, his stories are very unhinged. Because look, I'm dropping bars today. Somebody said she's not looking to split the bills. She knows what she's bringing to the table. She's looking for a provider. I'm just like, does she want a sugar daddy or is she looking for somebody to date? Because this thing that she's saying, like the girls are so, I don't split the check. I don't do this for men. And I'm just like, are we living in the same society? Don't you both come from 2-parent households where your parents go to work and they're both taking care of the family? So where is it all of a sudden that is because of feminism that, you know, men stop provide? I don't understand.
No, I was just going to say, I understand where it's coming from. It's a fantasy, right? But for me, this is the logic. And I was telling you about the sprinkle lady, aka Shira 7, because she is one of those dating coaches who preaches, your friend's match on Hinge probably follows her YouTube channel because that language is basically what she teaches, right? You don't split the bill. A man has to pay for everything. He's the provider. You don't contribute anything financially. And the source of that, at least for Shira 7 and her sprinkle disciples, they are saying that men are inherently wicked, right? Which I ain't gonna argue with them about that fact. They are saying men are wicked. If I'm going to be in a relationship with a man, then I have to benefit financially. That is the logic that is driving this rhetoric. But the girls are misguided. That is not the answer. If you think men are wicked, don't date them. The answer is not to date them and then think that they're going to pay you for dating them because it's not going to materialize in real life. Like, it's a fantasy.
Also, the girls talk too much online because they just be talking and talking. I remember somebody sharing a story that her mother asked her dad for something. And I think her mother either worked part-time or did not work, but her mother managed their household bills and stuff. So her mother asked her dad for money for something. This man said no. So she told him there was an increase in the bill for something. And she did that for 30 years. She saved every week. She took that increase. She saved it. She wanted a fur coat. He said no. And she billed him for 30 years. She bought that fur coat and then some.
I love it for her.
Because now she got her money. She saved towards her item. She bought it. And she kept taking the money. But knowing women, she probably, would use some of that for a kid or something, or if there's an emergency, she would pull it out. But there's some amount of like, this is what I did. But now the girls cannot have anything without coming to show us that, look at this thing. This is how I treated this man. Like, just do it. They were talking about women having, like vex money or just like their emergency fund. And almost every woman is like, yeah, my mother said I had it. And for a lot of men online, it was the first time they were hearing that women have this secret bank account. But now everybody knows that women have secret bank accounts.
But it should not even be a secret. That's a thing that's spinning my head. Like, why is it a secret?
Because some people are maniacs and megalomaniacs.
So,
that's why it's a secret to begin with, right? Because yeah. That's why.
I mean, I get it, right? And again, the sprinkle girlies, I understand the foundation of what they are trying to do, but they're going about it the wrong way. They're saying men, there are some of them who go as far as saying as men are incapable of love. They say that's one, school of thought, which I understand where they're coming from. I don't agree with it. I very much understand. I'll never argue with them about that. They say men are wicked. They're incapable of love. They, if you get into a relationship with a man, you are providing emotional labor. You're doing this, you're doing that. Therefore, you must be financially compensated. And that is why they come to these dates and they say, I'm not splitting bills with you. I'm going to live in the house. You pay all the bills. You provide for me. That is not the answer. If you
stay in your house,
just raise the bar for the men that you're dating. If you say that, men are incapable of love, men are wicked, then don't date men until you meet one that you think is kind and shows you love in the way that you think love should be as a woman. The answer is not to date wicked men and then think that you're going to somehow, finesse them. Like, you end up frustrated. So this is one of those online things that is a fantasy.
Yeah. Actually, I've now remembered. The reason why a lot of these accounts are secret, if you think back to Cameroon, where fathers like to walk up with their second family from somewhere, on that your mother is sitting peacefully in the house one day, they just show up with children. I think it speaks to that of like, whenever this man's head shakes, let me have money for myself and my children. And that's why you don't want them to know about it, because they are there, doing whatever they do. You ask them for money one day, they might just say, oh, I sent it to my other family. That happened to a friend of mine, actually.
I know that is the reality for many women today, particularly in America. I know that has been the reality of women historically. I cannot imagine having to ask somebody for money to go to a market. My mother told me, she was gossiping to me about a family friend. I actually went to school with one of the children. My mom said that the dad was so cheap that he used to go to the market himself. Like, he did not trust his wife to give her the money to go to the market. Like, he used to go to the market himself. Like, he was that cheap. I was like, wow. Do you know what it means? Like, for a man to go to the market and do all of the grocery shopping, leave the market. That's how controlling he was.
Oh, wow. I want to say, at least she didn't have to go through the market, but come on now. Like, he's afraid that she'll beat price and save what, 500? Come on.
Imagine living with that kind of man. And I'm assuming this is in a context where she didn't work. I don't know. But imagine you want to go out and braid your hair. You start begging this man. He'll say, oh, it's 2,000. He'll think that you're trying to cheat him.
No, so my dad grew up in a polygamous home, and his mother, although the first wife was the very quiet one, and the way that they tell it, they they said they feel like they got the short end of the stick, because if they asked for something and their father said no, their mother was just like, okay, let me try to figure it out on my own. Where they felt like their stepmother would like sit on my grandfather's neck, like you better find it from somewhere. They felt like they got the short end, because if their mother couldn't, then they wouldn't get it, where their stepmother is like, you will find a way and give it to my child today, you know.
See,
So
I mean, but that's why people say that wicked women win at the end of the day. So one thing about the sprinkle girlies, right? There are other girlies who they would disagree, but I think that these two groups are two sides of the same coin. The pick-me's. I think everybody listening knows what a pick-me is, but if I had to
no.
define it, okay, let me attempt and then you tell me what you think. I'd say that a pick-me is a woman who has internalized misogyny and she outwardly tries to prove for male validation how she is better than other women, and she's usually using kind of stereotypical, patriarchal gender attributes, right? For example, people use modesty. A lot of pick-me's will say, oh, I don't dress skimpily, I don't expose my body.
I'm not like, and they're very quick to say, I'm not like those other girls.
I'm
I'm
not
not
like
like
the
those
other girls.
girls who I like to cook. I'm not like those other girls who are always ordering on Uber Eats. I'm not like
Mm-hmm.
those other girls. I don't get along with girls. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
many female, my gender. They're just so dramatic. They're just so emotional. I'm not emotional. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of female friends because girls always hate on me. I don't know why. That's the pygmies love to think they have haters.
Ooh, let me tell you, somebody got the pygmies today on Twitter. They said, oh, we want to see other girls with no makeup, something, something. You should have seen Pygmishas lining up to post their makeup-free pictures, only for this man to come and say, the replies in these comments, if you see their display picture, the difference, he put like before and after. So he did all of that to still come and collect insult. What did you think? They thought that it was one of them so that they can shame the girls who wear makeup, Abby. Fucked around and you found out.
See, posturing for men will always end badly for you. Don't do it.
Always. They will flip on you in a heartbeat.
See,
In a heartbeat. But they never learn. And I don't know, like pygmies, to me, they're like the worst of the bunch, because I also call them patriarchy princesses, right?
yep.
And nobody works harder to defend the patriarchy than the pygmies.
You're right. And okay, before we continue the conversation, I want to just say this. We're using this, archetype of the pick me, right? There's pick me behavior. All women, because we are raised in a patriarchal society, all women are socialized and brought up to be pick me's, but so we, in some ways, we have some internalized pick meism, but the women who we label as pick me's again are the ones who, they're outwardly so very misogynistic and trying to raise their hands to the men, say, oh, pick me, look at me. I'm better than these other girlies. So I just wanted to clarify that all of us have a little bit of internalized misogyny, but the pygmies are the ones that wear it like a crown on their heads.
Where did pick me come from? Because do you watch Grey's Anatomy?
Yes, it's enough of Grey's Anatomy. That's why I thought.
I just thought about it now. Where Meredith goes, love me.
Choose me. Pick me. Bruh. There has never been a more pathetic scene in the whole of TV history. Jesus is Lord. Now you're talking about pygmies defending patriarchy. Listen, have you ever tried to insult men in front of a pygmy? Woo! You cannot use one man to characterize the whole gender. Stop it. Stop generalizing. And you know what the irony is? The pygmies that I know in real life, their partners are the most horrible men. Their partners are the most, like the village bicycle, rampant cheaters. They are, listen, that is the irony. So
Is it not those same anti-pygmies that you know that their husband has children up and down everywhere, and they're the ones telling they should marry? So, you think that you're too good to marry, and they're telling you they want you to come and be miserable like them. So no. Pygmies will be quick to tell you how they wake up at 5 a.m., they cook 10 meals for their husband so he can pick which one he wants before he goes to work. They feed him his clothes, they iron his clothes. So what then?
Ma'am.
Like, okay, you
But
did all that and then what?
that's the thing. So for me, a very small part of me empathizes with the pygmies because, again, like the sprinkle girlies, I think that being a pygmy is just a strategy for survival under patriarchy, right? They're trying to make their lives as easy as possible. And they think that by, posturing for men or seeking male validation, then they will, I don't know what, they will get the good man or they will get, but to our point, you still get treated like shit, just like every other woman. So obviously your pygmism, and I think that your pygmism even puts you more at risk of ending up with a horrible man because you make excuses for male behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You make excuses for male behavior. So by default, your standards are lower, right? It's not your fault that, the man is treating you poorly, but you probably got into that situation because you were excusing bad behavior.
And then when your friends try to talk to you, cut them off. If you have friends, because remember, pygmies like to remind you that they're not like the other girls.
They're not. They're so not like the other girls. So
I'm not like a regular girl. I'm like a cool girl.
I was making a video talking about Cameroonian restaurants and their takeout in Houston, and just complaining about the service. And one girl came under my comments and said, "Why are you even ordering food? You're a woman. You should not. You should be cooking for yourself." I said, "Auntie, I'm sorry." So I empathize to a certain degree. The pygmies and the sprinkle, they're two sides of the same coin because they are centering men, right? The sprinkle girlies, I tolerate them more. That I don't think there's anybody that I can't stand more than a pygmy.
The ones that I just want to buy a red nose for is the divine feminine girlies because I don't even know what they're saying.
So I think that some of the sprinkle girlies subscribe to divine feminism. I think that some of them do. But it is this because they think that you're supposed to behave a certain way, right? They think that there's feminine behavior. And to get a high value man who is going to be a provider. No, it's true because it's good and fine. They say, "Oh, I'm not bringing anything to the table. You have to provide. You have to pay for everything." Guess what? You have to present yourself in a certain way in order to catch that kind of man. So these dating coaches like Shira 7 who are preaching this philosophy, the other thing that they're preaching also is how to behave more feminine. Oh, you have to be soft. You have to dress like this. Don't speak too loud. Don't make him feel, oh, this and that, this and so there's, that's the other bullshit that comes with that ideology because you have to fit into a certain box to get that high value provider man. This mythological high value provider man, this unicorn.
I only know one girl on Nigerian Twitter who was doing divine feminine, and every time it's like she was searching when people were talking about it because every time they dragged her, even without calling her name, she would jump in there. Yeah, like, sis, have small shame now. Go and sell your courts. Leave us the haters to hate on you in peace. Like, what's the problem? Why this? But her high value, it was giving high value scam, but neither here nor there.
But that's the thing, right? That's the thing about these content creators who are pushing this. They're all selling something, right? Shira 7 is telling you to find a provider who's going to pay for everything for you. Shira 7 is making money off of her content and her courses that she's selling to you. So they are hypocrites because they're out here earning money. And that's the same thing that these trad wives are doing. So for people who are not familiar, the trad wife is, a relatively new online phenomenon. It's a character because it's not a realistic thing. It's an online character of a stay-at-home mom who, cooks and cleans. And while doing so, she's very well put together. She maintains herself very beautifully to be
Perfectly manicured nails. The camera is always just like perfectly positioned. I don't understand how people don't recognize that this is not real life.
But I feel like it's the same thing with every other kind of content creator, right? That we go and day in the life of this and that. The trad wife is the same. Like people
run and put your camera, then you run back to bed, and then you wake up.
Like it's an online persona, and people don't understand that it's very curated. And we were talking earlier about privilege. You really see it with the trad wives because these are wealthy women. Mm-hmm. They're not staying at home because the family cannot afford to pay for daycare because they have done a cost benefit analysis and it's better for the woman to stay home and save them. No, they're doing it because their husbands or their partners' income can afford to support the entire household, and they can sit at home. And that is a very rare thing for most women. So the people who are looking at them online and aspiring to this thing, that's why for me it's dangerous.
The irony of the whole trad wife is they are working. Those videos are work because they're sponsored videos. Mm-hmm. They are working with Williams Sonoma and every other brand, household lifestyle content. But like, it's a job. You have deliverables that you have to provide when you take money from these people. So why are you like, why are we all lying to ourselves here?
Exactly. And those trad wives best believe they have paid help. They're not cleaning that whole big house by themselves. They're not doing all of that laundry by themselves. Their kids have a nanny. Their kids go to daycare when they want downtime. Yes.
I saw years ago, I was following somebody. She had 2 nannies per kid. And she would sit there making videos talking about, I'm a working mom. I do this and I make all my kids' meals from scratch. Ma'am,
you can make all meals from scratch because somebody else is taking care of the child.
You just because you never address that, you don't talk about who that person is, does not mean they don't exist. You go to the park, you record cute videos of your child on the swing, somebody is pushing them.
I mean, I only hope that as people are consuming the content, to your point, they recognize that
it's a movie. It's not real life.
And they're selling you the products. They're selling you this image like it's not a real thing. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people acknowledge that because, to your point,
they don't.
You hear women talking about, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to stay and take care of my kids. And they're not listening. They're not listening to the older women who have come out of divorces after being stay-at-home parents, penniless. You're like, I'm going to get alimony. Really? Do you know the percentage of divorce cases in which alimony, even when they rule to get alimony, it's actually paid out? It's a low percentage. That's the first thing. The second thing, you ain't got no money. How are you going to retain a divorce attorney? They don't work for free.
Listen.
Like, people really don't sit and think through.
I was trying to explain homeschooling and stay-at-home mother to my father a few months ago. He could not understand why this is school and somebody wants to voluntarily leave. It was like the shock on his face when I was trying to explain it to him. And he just looked so confused by this. To me, it looked like I was speaking a different language because he kept asking, but they have schools now. I said, yes, but they want to teach them.
Yeah.
It could not be me, girl. It could not be me.
So what's the way forward? How do we reverse this flop era? Or how do we get feminism out of her flop era?
I think that like everything, I always feel like when it gets to a certain age, they are too late to salvage. Like you can try, but they're not. It's the kids, right? We have to work with the kids. The little boys especially. The little boys, get them to understand from the jump, there's, everybody's equal in this house. It's very common you see like because it starts in very little things that are not even, you feel like it's just little, but you have kids growing up in the house and already at like 5, there's a difference in the way you treat the boy versus the girl. Or it's like, oh, no, boys don't do that, or girls don't do that. It's some of these things that I feel like we need to start with our kids and teaching them, these chores everybody can do. It's in everybody's interest that everybody can cook. Everybody does every chore in the house. Like I tell people, these gender roles, oh, I don't touch the trash, it's only the man. I always laugh at my neighbor that she would, like if her husband travels on trash day, the trash can is going to sit outside till he comes. He's not.
That's so
He's
silly.
he's not touching it. Like, gender roles are not really a thing. Yes, there are things that maybe need more physical strength, but there should not be like things should be fit for purpose. And so yes, everybody does every chore, but you could have the boy who is much better at cooking, but then somebody's going to decide now that boys don't belong in the kitchen, and either they forget or they get it in their heads and that's the end of that. I think that we have to start with the kids and teach them, normalize these things. It's not even teaching them, it's just making it normal that they see everybody as the same. Everybody should have the same opportunities. Did you know that it was a baby company that decided pink was for girls and blue was for boys? It was marketing. That's
I know,
how
because before a certain time, boys used to wear pink. Yeah, like that's the thing. Like a lot of things are just arbitrary, and we just accept it.
Yeah,
we just
so
accept.
we have to just raise them with things as this is the way things are, and move forward from there, because then they don't have to be learning in adulthood. Like you just discover at 24, like, oh wow, so this is what or this is how it should be. I think just making certain things normal.
You talked about gender roles, and it reminded me of an argument that I had with a man I was talking to romantically, and he was arguing that, if we live together, this was never going to happen, right? But in his fantasy, if we live together, like he believes that I would either cook, or if I don't want to cook, like take care of the meals, wherever it's coming from, and serve him his food, right? So, and he was trying to make the argument that it's okay because he would do other things in the household. And he was very serious. So he was like, what about mowing the lawn? I said, I pay somebody to mow my lawn now. I would assume that we would do the same thing. He's like, what about your oil change and washing your car and putting gas in the car? I said, who do you think is doing that now?
Please, let's talk about this gas thing, because I'm about to call out this man that I live with, who does not put, unless he's driving the car and is on E. But he could be driving it at 25 miles and then he'll smile. It's like, you put gas, right? Mind you, in winter, I'm now the dedicated gas, person who puts gas in the car. And he gets away with it because I get fidgety when the gas light comes on. We would drive, and then I'll start the car and it's like 25 miles to empty. You should come and see the way. The worst I've ever done, the last time I took it and he had been driving, it was 8 miles to empty. I thought, I was just like, oh God, this guy is going to stop. And just like, I had to find a gas station. But yes, gender roles are daft. That's
very, and like, suffice it to say that situationship did not last long, but it was, I had to like really restrain myself from bursting out laughing. I was trying not to, be like, what do you mean who's going to mow the lawn? Who does it now?
But I would say that, okay, I'm also guilty. It's not necessarily gender roles, right? There are just certain things that Azatosin does that is like, so there was a day where I came, I was like, oh, you need to do that. And he said, why can't you do it? And I had to stop and think, like, why can't
I do it?
And he said, well, when I met you, you were changing bulbs in your apartment by yourself. Okay. But yeah. I mean, he said that and I started being more mindful. Like, there are things that I do. Like, if the power goes off in the house, I know to go check the box and like make sure that nothing tripped anything. I can do that. Like basic, but there are just certain things because he's always done it. I've never bothered, but now I pay attention to. I'm trying to pay attention to certain things, but every now and again, I'm a princess.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. That's why we have to be self-aware, right? But yeah, but I agree with you. It starts with the children. For me, I mean, I agree with you. It starts with children. The way forward, like the girlies need to wake up. I feel like we've
We
gone
need to
soft.
touch. We need to touch grass outside.
Bruh, we've gone soft, we've gone delulu to unhealthy levels. We need to wake up. We need to firm up our backbone, and we need to.
I don't think COVID helped either. I think that we spent a lot of time at home and on the computer, and our interaction was done in these silos. Because I feel like Kevin Samuels might have been blowing up like pre-COVID, but then when everybody was home watching his lives and tuning in, and that's how we ended up in some of these situations. So hopefully we will come back outside, actually interact and engage like human beings, and understand that some of these things people say on the internet. Because somebody could sit behind a computer, your sister sprinkle, sitting there is a hermit who doesn't leave the house and is trying to tell you how to engage. When was the last time this person actually spoke to a man? Or they could be happily married too.
She is. That's the thing. She is happily married. And to your point, she's making money. She's selling you something. So yeah, like the girls need to touch grass and listen, the sprinkle girls, a man is not going to save you. That is, please, that is the riskiest investment you can make in this life, waiting for a romantic partner to save you. I know that the economy is bad. I know that it's tough out here, but bet on yourself. Don't bet on a man. I beg of you, sis. Don't do it. Yeah. So, I mean, the way forward for me, we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and remember that feminism is not an individualistic, movement. We need to be as intersectional as possible. Okay. You know what to do if you're enjoying this podcast. Give us a 5-star rating, review us on whatever platform you're listening, and engage with us on Instagram at 2bspod. Remember, our March book of the month is Sugar and Spice by Bolu Babalola. Happy Women's History Month to all the girlies, the days, the boys. And until next time.
No means I agree. Which means I heard, but that doesn't mean I agree. Which is simple. Yeah, like I listen to you, but it doesn't, just because I listen to you doesn't mean I agree with you.
Yeah, and also like I can empathize with you. It doesn't mean I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, like you're a human being. I feel sorry for you, but you still fucked up.
Yeah. So the pick me girlies, that one is for you.